Hello, everybody. Thank you for checking in to this video. I am here with Skylar Lysaker, the CEO of Greenz. He is changing the fashion industry through hemp. Skylar, I really enjoyed talking to you and learning how clothing is not only toxic to our environment, but also to our skin. So tell me, how did you become the hemp guy and how did that lead you to starting Greenz?
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And to get right into it, a few years ago, I was introduced through a mutual friend to somebody that was interested in doing a hemp brand, and I kind of just said okay. And before you knew it, I was kind of just involved in learning about hemp and educating myself on the product. That initial company didn't really work out for a couple of reasons, but eventually this opportunity came back around. And when I ended up moving to Phoenix, Arizona a few years ago, my business partners and I decided that it would be cool to reintroduce this idea with proper marketing and a proper brand after we learned more skills, and we decided to do it. So I've been studying the plant, studying textiles and clothing now for a good 4 years, and I've accumulated a good amount of knowledge and a lot of experience as well.
Okay. So last time we talked, you talked to me about the true cost of fashion. And I know me personally, I'll just be transparent. It's not something that I have given a lot of thought to, what happens to my clothes when I throw them away. So how does your company address and compensate for the true cost of fashion? Explain that to me.
Great question. So initially, right now, how we're doing that is by leading our products with the hemp fiber. And the reason we have chosen hemp and we're so big about hemp is because hemp is a far more superior product in its sustainable nature and as well as benefits for consumers. Just to give a quick educational background for people so they understand and have a foundation for the rest of what we're going to talk about.
Right.
Ecologically, hemp is quicker to grow than cotton. It requires a lot less water, much less land, and it actually needs no pesticides to be used. We have essentially a plant that is a quicker process as well as doing something really cool called phytoremediation, which essentially means that it vacuums toxins from the soil. So on the ecological side, we have a very just wonderful thing there alone. But when we move to the consumer side of things, it's antimicrobial, it's hypoallergenic, UV resistant, and thermoregulating. So it's beneficial to consumers and to our soil and to the planet in general. So that's really our main way how we're I would say changing the true cost of what we're doing with clothing by just putting out better quality products that are biodegradable over a period of time, keeping them very simple, minimizing ink use, and eventually over time we'll be getting into more completely sustainable packaging and just making our supply chain more transparent and more sustainable as we grow. Because I look at it like this: for any company that's in looking to build a sustainable business model, is that it's one step at a time. And being able to really just start to become more true to yourself and be the most authentic you can. But it sometimes takes a lot because with a new product like hemp, it's not very developed here in the westernized world, and not many companies have put the dollar and the time into making sustainable packaging, sustainable plastics, all this stuff. It's just starting to become popular. So building that into a supply chain can be quite a grueling process as well.
Okay, so I want to backtrack to something you said. What was the word you used? Phytoremediation?
Yes, phytoremediation.
So hemp takes toxins out of the soil.
Yes. So essentially what happens is that the phytoremediation process has a few different variations. There's one called phytoaccumulation, phyto something, and phyto something. There's the three different terminologies of phytoremediation. So it removes toxins from the soil, and it'll either store it in the plant, it will neutralize the toxins, or it'll push it through the plant, clean it, and push it back into the air. So it's a big part of carbon sequestration as well. I'm not an uber scientist here. I have no degree. I simply study a lot. I talk with hemp farmers and people in the space. So we're dealing with a plant alone that if we were to just plant more hemp around the world, we could use it as a way to reclaim the soil from the very vast amount of pesticides that we use to farm our crops right now.
Right. So to grow cotton, you would have to use pesticides, and cotton doesn't have that kind of benefits, does it?
No. So cotton, not all cotton is needed to grow pesticides.
Okay.
We're using organically grown cotton in our products to blend with as well. Hemp is the leading fiber in there, meaning that it's always going to have the highest percentage. And we do that just because of all of its benefits. I'm not here to trash cotton or wool or any natural materials. It's more or less bringing the truth back to natural materials and kind of making a stride away from unnatural materials like polyester, stuff that Under Armour is using and all that, because that's where a lot of the damage is coming from, and a lot of the secondary damage is coming from conventional cotton, because conventional cotton requires a lot of pesticides and a lot of processing, and that's where we're getting a large amount of our pesticide use on Earth. I've read some statistics that pesticide use on Earth right now, 16% of it, so imagine a sixth of pesticide use on the entire planet, is completely solely dedicated to cotton. So if we can start to, change the way we're growing things and change the way we're buying products and we're making them, we can minimize that use too, because any deduction, any reduction that we can make towards removing pesticides from the soil, the better chance we have at reclaiming it, because it's shot.
Okay. So your business could have huge implication on the environment, period, allowing supply chains to grow more hemp, right?
Totally.
Okay. So how durable is hemp?
Hemp is quite durable. I definitely say that over certain, we call it GSM. So it's the weight of a product. So like the weight of this t-shirt right now, I think it's 151. This is getting into stuff that I don't fully understand, which is why I have a designer and people who understand this part of the business. But as you go up the scale of weight, like a sweatshirt or a thicker shirt even, it becomes more durable. I've noticed in some of our products that if they're lower GSMs, it has more of that tearability, and I want to make sure people know that, which is, a thing that we're working on. But with certain products, more linens, casual chill wear, it is not as durable as a thicker GSM, let's say like a 155 to 158. So, but in the end, hemp is more durable and it does last longer over time, as long as you're using it in the right way with the right GSM.
Okay, so if I buy one of your hoodies, it's not going to be low quality. It's not going to rip and tear on me easily.
Correct. The hoodie is absolute beast. It's actually, and I don't just say it just because it's something we've made. The hoodie is actually it's my favorite hoodie I've ever had, just because you catch the benefits of like the thermal regulation. So when it's hotter out, you stay cooler. When it's cooler out, you stay warm. It regulates temperature so well, and it's just robust. It's one that has kept its cool. It's kept its durability over the past year and a half. It's been worn by multiple people. Beat the shit out of. I really have put our products through the ringer. Being somebody that's very athletically driven in skateboarding, I've used and abused most of the stuff we put out so far.
Okay. That's good for people like me to know, because I am rough on my stuff. I don't care what it is. So last time we talked, you were explaining to me how the mindset in our system, in our mindset that we use to do business with, is broken. And that is what's fueling, the fast fashion industry, as well as other industries that have, harmed society and the environment. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. That's a topic, I really personally enjoy, because it's tied into the mission of this. And, I think when we were having that last conversation, the main point to understand is, I'll keep it super simple. And use an analogy. So we have these pair of headphones right here, Apple native headphones. Millions of people have them. There's this Adidas hat right here. There's this lanyard. None of these things are bad. And inherently in nature. Material things aren't bad. Businesses aren't bad. But what we need to rethink, and this is just my perspective, people can disagree with me and have their own, but what I believe is that we haven't thought about how our stuff's going to impact the planet and people over a long time. So if there's millions of these headphones running around and they're in the trash and they don't really degrade or they cause problems biologically with people for transferring radiation, then we have a product that has short-term gains but very detrimental long-term use. If I'm making lanyards out of plastic, and they're really cool and people they're awesome, they're using them, they're giving away at events and they're free and they're marketing for your company, it's awesome. But that's only short-term, because long-term you're going to have thousands of lanyards that are causing pollution over time. And it's the same thing I view with cars and electronics and stuff like that. It's like we need to rethink how we're doing things at scale. So in 40, 50 years ahead, is my business decisions that I made now going to have a lot of negative implications, not just with materials and pollution, but financially as well, also within my employees, also within myself. So it's more about looking at business from a very long-term perspective. I think everybody's very stuck in the short term. They want things now. They want the most money right here, right now. Let's drop ship everything. You got to get on Amazon because, you can make an extra 6 figures a year type shit. I just don't really align with the short-term business model, because I think if you're a true entrepreneur, the whole point of being an entrepreneur is to solve a problem, and it's not to create a problem to solve it for financial gain. It's to solve an actual problem and be able to be a profitable company at the same time. And I just think we've lost that ideology because, there's been so much opportunity. It's like opportunity madness. You can do anything and monetize it, which is cool. But the shadow side of that is that you can monetize stuff that's, I don't think, morally correct to monetize. And that might just be my opinion. But, go look at what big fashion companies are doing. Go look at what big pharmaceutical companies are doing. Look what big financial institutions are doing. They're involved in a lot of things that aren't causing, psychological and spiritual and financial freedom for a lot of people. They're actually doing the reverse thing.
Right. I love that you said that. I love that you used the word rethink, because I think that's where a lot of us are in society. Businesses, that's where they are. They're having to rethink how they do business. And I love, rethinking is not just about doing the right thing. It's also strategic. You're thinking about the longevity of your company. You're not just thinking about 1 year from now, 2 years, 5 years. You're thinking about 30, 40 years, when the company is, you're creating a company. When you think about how a company can position itself for good, you are thinking about the company long after you're gone. And I think that is a trap for us. We don't ever think about the world and life after we're gone. Because what does it matter? We're not here anymore, right? But it does matter. And it's very important. And honestly, a company that's thinking about longevity in that sense, what's the good that we can do? How can we cause less harm? That would be a company I would want to invest in. That's a company I would want to be a part of, So I love that you're thinking like that. So something that you said to me that really stood out and that I've been sharing with other people, and you really need to think about trademarking it. You said you live your brand. What does that mean?
I'm so happy you wrote that down, because I would have forgot about it. Sometimes just in these conversations, I get riled up, and that creative flow produces cool things like live your brand. So, as long as it's not trademarked, I'm going to have to go after it here. So nobody steal it when they listen to this podcast. Essentially, when I say live your brand, I mean, if you're, you have a product, you have a service, are you using it? Do you even believe in it? If you don't, I don't know why you're doing it. But if you really believe in it and you're a part of it and you're down with it, then represent it. And to me, what that looks like for my life is that I attempt, and I would say 95% of the time, I'm wearing greens. Even if I'm wearing a dress shirt, I'm wearing greens underneath. I'm wearing and experiencing the product every day. The samples of socks that I have, I'm wearing them. My hemp hat that I had before I shrunk it because I was inconsiderate with how I was washing it. I was wearing it as much as I possibly can. You know, our sweatshirts, when I'm not having somebody wear it and test it out, you know, I'm wearing it. Beyond that, I've started buying most of my clothes secondhand now. I ain't going to be buying boxers and socks secondhand, that's for sure. But any other dress shirts I buy, shoes, pants, those are all secondhand items that, you know, are just going to be able to reduce my pollutive output is what I like to call it. So I think living your brand has to do with everything that you stand for and making sure that that aligns with the rest of your life. You know, if you're a health coach, if you're smoking cigarettes, I don't know what the hell you have going on. If you're a doctor, this is the problem. If you're a doctor, but you're subscribing pharmaceuticals to people that mess up their entire gut microbiome and affect their immune system, then you're not living to the true authenticity of what you're supposed to be doing. So that's kind of the way I view it, is just, you know, living in alignment and authenticity with what you're producing, what you're doing with your time here.
Right. Well, and I feel like also by you living your brand and you wearing your product, I feel like you are also creating a connection with your users. You know what their experience is like in your product, so therefore you know how to improve it. You know where the problems are. So when a consumer says, "Hey, I don't like this about your product," you're like, "I already know because I don't like it either." And we're working on that. You're able to have that communication, because I think some of the problems with CEOs now is they're just out of touch. They have no clue. I know this whole retail apocalypse is really huge, and I'm just kind of looking at it like these stores don't have to shut down. They just need to wake up, and they need to, I don't know, for lack of better words, they need to get with the times. They're just out of touch, and they have no connection. They have no sense of identity with their consumer. So I love that you said you live your brand, you live in your product, you know, you treat your product badly to know what kind of abuse it can and cannot take. So I love that phrase. So yes, trademark it. So Greenz is in the process of raising capital right now to expand your products. What's one thing you want your investors to really understand about your company?
It's a great question. I would say the biggest thing that I want everybody to understand that's already invested, and I think most of them know this, and anybody that will invest here over time, is that we're dedicated to the mission, meaning that the mission is to set a new standard of ethics in the fashion industry and have a profitable company at the same time, meaning that when we're dedicated to it, is that we're going to sacrifice, you know, a lot of things to get there. We already have, you know, sacrificed pay, have sacrificed time, sacrificed hobbies to grow this company because I believe in it. And what I say that I believe in is that I believe that this is something bigger than myself that I'm involved in. It's not about me. It's about the impact we can have on consumers. And I think that's one of the most important things, that if I were an investor, and I think as I grow in age into that type of position over time, is that people need to start delegating time, money, and resources into companies that really have that vision and really believe in it. It's not just about dollar signs. We look at venture capital firms now. They're betting on 9 out of 10 companies failing and 1 winning, meaning that they're making a bunch of guesses, a bunch of hypotheses and assumptions off numbers and forecasts and teams and people who have made strategic exits in the past, which is good, but they're still betting on the assumption that most companies are going to tank. And that's the truth. 95% plus companies are going to fail. And what we've done internally is that we're doing everything within our team, within our legal structure, within our mindset, within our vision to be one of the 5%, meaning that we're doing everything in our nature to not be a part of that. Say a large percentage of people that aren't as dedicated or aren't just willing to go to the edges of doom to really build something.
Okay. So what kind of investors would be most appropriate for your company and for your brand? Like, who are the investors that align with Greenz mission?
Great question. I'd say at this point, it's definitely a strategic investor that's interested in eco-friendly and or sustainable business models, businesses that are focused on renewables and or focused on hemp or cannabis. I don't really see it being a VC firm, although it could always happen that way. It could always be a company that is involved in the space as well that wants to acquire a brand and fund it to put it under their company as well, and maybe even a family office, which is essentially a trust where families put together their money and they reinvest it into other companies, businesses that they believe in. So that's kind of really where I see it coming from, although I'm not opposed to other areas or options. That's just from everything that the meetings that I've taken, the people that I've talked to, I feel that might be the direction where we're headed.
Okay. Well, Skylar, that is all the questions that I have for you. I enjoyed talking to you again. I am looking forward to Greenz future and much success for you guys.
Cool. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.